Ravi, welcome. And today we are talking about 25 years of Indian Telecom. Indian Telecoms in the private sector, with the active participation of the private sector. The telecom services have completed 25 years this year in August. The first call was, from the Minister of Communications, then Mr. Sukram to Mr. Jyoti Basu, Chief Minister of Calcutta, because Calcutta was the first city to get the mobile network. Though Bharti and others were building telecom network across the 4 metro cities 25 years ago. So, Ravi, how do you see this 25 years of mobile telephony in India? Has it totally changed the way Indians communicate?
Oh, yes, certainly. There has been a very great telecom revolution, not just in India, but all across the world, and especially in developing countries. For instance, if you look at the scenario in 1985, according to the International Telecommunications Union of the United Nations, the Maitland report said that half of the world's population had never made even one single telephone call in their entire lives, and that about 55 to 60% of the world's population had to walk for more than 4 miles to access the nearest telephone. And so, in 25 years, we have made a vast revolution in the way Indians communicate over mobile phones, accessing the internet over mobile phones. India is the second largest telecom subscriber base in the world, and for several years, India has been among the top 2 or top 4 fastest growing telecom markets in the world. And
Yeah,
really,
I think Ravi, Ravi, before you go to the history, I must say that Ravi is now in Shimla. You can see Shimla city in his background. That's the best example of Indian, expansion of Indian telecom system, because Ravi is in a hilly place, and he's using his mobile handset to communicate with me in Delhi. So that is the level of growth and robustness which the telecom networks in India has achieved. Because 25 years back, it was just one crore population had just one phone. Today, for 130 or 140 crores, there are about 115 crore SIM cards or connections available in India. So, what's the ups and downs of this huge development in 25 years, Ravi?
Oh, yes, India has seen several ups and downs in telecommunications regulations and telecommunications policies. And there have been a lot of good government policies as well as mistakes made. The telecom mobile revolution started in 1992 when 2 mobile licenses were awarded for the 4 metro cities of Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, and Kolkata and Chennai. And these 2 mobile licenses were granted via a beauty contest and not by any auction. And there was a lot of criticism. There were court cases that went up all the way to the Supreme Court. There were many political parties said that privatization of telecom was not in the national interest. And finally, the Supreme Court ruled that the government had the right to issue telecom licenses to any private party it chose under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. And then in 1995, again, there was the basic services, and the mobile licenses were granted by a telecom auction. And this was one of the few cases where auctions went totally wrong, because certain bidders bid astronomically high fees for the telecom licenses in the various circles or provinces,
Yeah,
and then they
let me clarify one thing. These auctions were not spectrum auction. This was license fee based auctions, is it not?
yes, these were license fee based auctions based on a fixed fee, and the winning bidders made such high bids, so it was a typical example of what can go wrong in auctions, of the winner's curse. And at that time also, auction theory was not as well developed as it is now, and the spectrum came bundled with the license, and the spectrum was based on a subscriber linked allocations. But in 1998, 1999, the NDA government took a bold step of bailing out the ailing telecom sector when it moved from the fixed fee license fee regime to an adjusted gross revenue regime, where the telecom operators paid a certain percentage of their gross revenues to the government as the license fees. And this was the move that really led to the Indian telecom sector booming and becoming one of the fastest growing telecom markets in the world. There were also other good policies, such as the move to the CPP, or calling party pays regime, because in the initial years you had to pay not just to make a telephone call but also to receive a telephone call, and the call rates to receive a telephone call were about 16 rupees a minute or even higher.
Yeah,
So
but in short, what will you, you know, in 25 years, if you make a summary of the apps, you know, the positives and the negatives, what is it? It occurs to you, you know, immediately.
the positives are the move from the fixed license fee to the adjusted gross revenue percentage, so the telecom operators can pay as they go along. The other positives are the move to the calling party pays, then the entire vast subscriber base, which and the move to have more operators, and the forbearance. The
Yeah,
negative.
but Ravi, let me seek a clarification. The AGR is a good move. You are saying that, but today AGR has become Achilles heel, you know, for the telcos, you know, the old telcos. So so
Okay.
can one say that AGR decision was that perfect? Maybe AGR decision was perfect up to the point of auctioning of the spectrum itself, is it not? You can't have spectrum auction as well as AGR both, and that leads to a lot of economic issues for the telcos. That's what they are all complaining these days.
Yeah, well, basically, in 1998, 1999, the telecom sector was really suffering. The consumer base was really low, and the tariffs were very high. So at that time, the AGR issue decision was a very good decision. The problem came because of lacunae in defining the precise what constituted an AGR, the adjusted gross revenues, and this is what led to a lot of litigation. And this is one of the key problems, with the lack of clarity in the definitions of the adjusted gross revenues. Then also there were a lot of, you had asked for the ups and downs. The move to free mobility, the doing away of the limited mobility licenses of the wireless and local loop, allowing free entry, um, were the high points. Some of the low points were the numerous changes in the TRAI Act, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act, from 1995, 1997 onwards. It went through several changes. There was not enough clarity in the regulations and the policies. Some good moves were the moves towards auctions, but again, auctions can backfire badly if they're not properly conducted, as happened in 1995. And The good moves were the allowing of free entry and open competition on a license fee of 1651 crores. This was done by Arun Shawri, who introduced some very forward thinking and enlightened moves. And even if it went against some of the contracts that had been written, there was very bold and imaginative and forward thinking visionary decisions made by Arun Shawri as the telecom minister. Some of the negatives were again the 2G scandal, which really was not a scandal at all. And I think what
So
destroyed.
that's a key question which I want to ask. See,
Yes.
so you said that AGR was something which was India government bought in. You pay
Yes.
X amount, share your revenue, X amount of revenue. The definition, of course, was contested and all. And then in between, Supreme Court asked the government to auction the spectrum.
Yes.
And you did a study on spectrum availability in India, so you can enlighten that. Why was the reason that so many years government of India couldn't auction the spectrum?
Well, in my opinion, spectrum auctions do not always work. Auctions work only in very well-defined situations where the economy is growing, the future is predictable, that is technologically, economically, and policy-wise, the future has to be stable and predictable. So
Yeah.
auctions really work only in like land or art, or where the technology does not change drastically. Fast moving auctions detrimental. And in fact, it also auctions are anti-competitive, because let us say, suppose I have a very brilliant telecom idea and I want to start a company offering telecom services on that idea. I cannot enter the telecom field because I don't have a spectrum, and I'll have to wait until the next spectrum auction to bid for it. So actually,
Yeah, that's
auctions
fine. That's
anti-competitive.
your this thing. But what about the availability of the contiguous spectrum across India? Was it a reality 10 years back?
Well, the availability of spectrum was always a problem, and there is what is called the spectrum refarming policies, which have been taken by countries all over the world, in USA and France and Germany and India. They've all had various policies. Where in India, the problem was that a lot of the spectrum was historically allocated to the defense,
Yes. So
security
yeah,
agencies,
in
civil
effect, you are saying
aviation,
that
maritime.
contiguous spectrum was not available in India 10 years back, is it not?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. So there is what is called the spectrum refarming, where the existing users, such as defense, who are not using the spectrum efficiently or fully, are compensated
Cutting Ravi.
from bands, but and the efficient allocation of contiguous spectrum bands.
Yeah.
And historically, the spectrum allocation policies have been an issue in India long before the advent of mobile telephony or wireless telephony. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's
right
it.
from the
So
time
let's come to the practicality of it.
yes.
What do you think is the real issue in that spectrum auction and AGR both? Now the private telcos have to share
A
their
lot of issues
plus pay a huge
in
thing for the spectrum. That's what it bleeds the industry, they say.
is with Ministry of Information and Broadcasting for, let us say, the 700 megahertz spectrum, which is used for terrestrial broadcasting and is actually ideal for 5G telephony, because it has a long wavelength. It has a long propagation.
Ravi, I am talking about you. Is it healthy for a telecom sector anywhere in the world, not just India, that you have an AGR regime of sharing revenue with the government, then you have an auction of spectrum, which is huge. You know, you have to pay a huge price for the spectrum and then share the revenue and then run the business. They say that the industry is constantly saying that this is what is bleeding all the telcos.
Oh, yes, absolutely. What is happening is that the spectrum auctions are very sensitive to the initial conditions and the boundary conditions, like the reserve price and the rounds of auctioning. And therefore, in my opinion, the Supreme Court judgment saying that all spectrum has to be auctioned was a wrong decision because it should have been left to the executive to determine whether the spectrum, how the spectrum should be allocated, because the spectrum is a national resource. The spectrum does not belong to the government. The spectrum belongs to the nation as a whole, the people of India as a whole, and has to be used for the public good. And the government can form regulations for the allocation of spectrum. So
Bandwidth. We have a bandwidth issue.
UK and Germany. So,
Ravi,
because the economic scenario has to be
there.
looked at.
Ravi, hold on.
Yeah.
It was stuck there. So let's come to that point that you also feel spectrum auctioning has its own issues combined with AGR. So my question is very direct. How the the telcos as of today in the 25th year is in distress. The telcos which served us for the last 25 years. The new entrant Geo is in a different ballgame altogether. So their complaint is that AGR plus spectrum auction plus spectrum fees and the taxes together, India has one of the lowest EBITDA earning telecom service sector in the world. That's their argument. So how do you see that going forward?
Yes, that is a very valid argument because the telecom sector is paying more than 30 to 35% of its revenues in the form of various fees, license fees, spectrum fees, USO universal service obligation fees, then service taxes and corporate income taxes. And this is among the highest in the world. So the cost of spectrum in India per megahertz is among the highest in the world, whereas the mobile tariffs of what the market can bear are among the lowest in the world, which is why the telecom operators are bleeding.
Okay. So it is also said that telecom sector is a showcase baby of Indian liberalization. In 25 years after after the tele density has gone, skyrocketed, can one say it still is a showcase baby of the economy?
Seems gone. No. Can you please repeat the question? The connection seems to have gone.
Yeah. See, I think tele density wise, it is skyrocketed, and it is said that Indian telecom sector is the showcase baby of Indian liberalization. The reforms in the economic sector, the best results were in telecom sector. And after 25 years, you think telecom sector has rivals, or is it the financial sector which is doing much better than telecom sector?
Well, the telecom sector certainly has been a boon to the Indian economy because there have been studies done by IITIAN, the economic policy think tank, which show that a 10% increase in mobile connectivity, even ordinary 2G mobile connectivity, led to about a 2.5% increase in the GDP. And in mobile broadband, a 10% increase in mobile broadband penetration led to something like about a 3.5 increase a 3.5% increase in GDP. And you have to look at telecom as an infrastructure multiplier effect, because the main advantage of telecom is that it drastically reduces the time of doing business, and drastically reduces costs. So you have to look at telecom as a cost reducer and something which increases the velocity of business, rather than as a cash cow for the government exchequer. That
Okay.
telecom has a vast multiplier effect in GDP,
Yeah.
and therefore low telecom tariffs and increase in teledensity and tele usage have very great advantages to the economy in terms of reducing transaction costs and transaction times.
Okay. Okay. That is a general benefit to the business and economy. What about the
Yes.
IT sector? It is said that IT sector boom in India happened because of the this 25 years of Indian telecom, because the data pipelines were laid across the cities and across the country.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The software export boom is largely due to robust telecom networks, the fiberization, international connectivity, and then the mobile telephone apps. For instance, then India could take advantage of the Y2K crisis because the telecom submarine, international submarine cables had been laid. So
Yeah.
therefore, the telecom sector has been a vast boon to the software sector, especially in software exports. And a large number of Indian software companies have grown, have came into existence to serve the telecom sector, to develop mobile apps, to develop web apps, and the entire boon of growth of the telecom, of the information technology sector, is because of robust telecom networks with low latency and high bandwidth.
Okay. And in his book, Dr. Robin Jeffrey,
Yes.
on Indian telecom, has also said because the way Indians communicate has changed, the way there was a social and political impact of it. Like in all the elections, he attributes even one party called BSP in UP came to power thanks to the telecom network, because the entire organization was based on mobile phones and the numbers of its organizers and mobilizers. So, in a way, telecom has contributed to massive social and political changes in India.
Oh, yes, telecom is enabling social change and enabling people at the bottom of the pyramid, the disadvantaged castes, the Dalits, and the rural poor to move up the social ladder.
Oh, we,
Especially in rural areas,
yeah, Ravi, you have
oppressed
to repeat it.
areas.
Yeah.
Telecom has enabled electronic governance, the delivery of services in the remote areas, in rural areas. You now have the BharatNet project, which gives broadband connectivity to the Gram Panchayats. There are revolutions in tele-education, remote learning, telehealth, telemedicine, and especially in e-governance and mobile governance, where earlier people had to spend days to go to a government office to get their work done. Now the government services are coming to people's handsets.
Yeah, yeah. And there is entire change in the way people transact business. Governments connect with people. Political parties connect with the voters. In fact, pandemic times was the best, where even the students are got onto the network and they are using digital mode for education itself. So it's
Oh,
a
yes.
huge change which has which is facilitated by the telecom network, is it not?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Telecom has led to vast revolutions in the way people are doing business, the way people are learning, the way people
Oh
are
God.
one of the largest per capita usage of data in the world. That is about 11 GB per subscriber per month, which is one of the highest in the world. And especially during the pandemic times, people are increasingly relying on mobile networks for mobile phone calls and mobile internet access, mobile communications to transact business, to for especially in e-learning, electronic commerce, electronic governance, and there is a vast amount of social change that is being witnessed in the way people's mindsets are changing.
Yeah.
The access to the internet has opened up a whole new world of awareness to people in rural areas and disadvantaged areas and remote areas. And they are able to look at the trends, not just in India, but trends all over the world.
Yeah, to sum up, in 25 years back, telecom was a luxury, like only it was a rich man's toy. Today, it is no longer a rich man's toy. It is become the common man's enabler for his livelihood. Uh, Thank you, Ravi, for this explanations. We'll continue our chat over other issues. And thanks. And have a great time in Shimla. And good to see Shimla in your background. And that itself shows the telecom, success of the telecom network and the telecom sector in India. Because I'm in Delhi and Ravi is in Shimla, and we are talking over Zoom with his mobile handset. Of course, I am on my laptop. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ravi.
oh, okay, sure. Okay.